So the last verse of the book of Judges says, in those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. The fact that Israel had no king is mentioned 4 times in the book of Judges. Why? I noticed the first time this is said is in chapter 17, after Samson, the last judge in the book of Judges, dies. The first 5 chapters after that shows Micah setting up a shrine in his house and setting his son up as a priest, and then hiring a Levite after that to be his priest by paying him a yearly salary. Then the Danites come and take his gods from him and offer his priest a better deal to be their priest. They said, isn't it better to be the priest of a whole tribe than to be the priest of one man? And they agreed and left Micah and went and served the tribe of Dan. The Danites take the city of Laish and name it Dan and set up the gods and priests there. Then a man's concubine, a Levite brother, his concubine is raped by the men of Gibeah, the Benjamites. And the man cut her up in 12 pieces because she died, and he cut her up in pieces. Let me back up a little bit. They raped her. It says that they abused her all night long. She made it home and fell at the threshold of the door. And when he opened the door, she lay there dead. And so he took her and cut her into 12 pieces and sent her out to the 12 tribes of Israel. Oh, yeah. Judges is very beautiful. It's very brutal. I almost said beautiful. No, it's not. Very brutal and bloody. Brutal and bloody. A very sinful book. I always tell people Joshua is the book that shows God's faithfulness, and Judges is the book that shows Israel's unfaithfulness. A very sinful and bloody book. Then Judges ends with a civil war. The children of Israel gather in Mizpah, and the man tells them what the Benjamites had done to his concubine. So the children of Israel go to war with Benjamin, their own brother. And Benjamin actually defeated them twice until the priest actually asked the Lord, should they go to battle against them? And the Lord said, go up. And the Lord smote Benjamin before the children of Israel. So it's not that Israel can't defeat their enemies or handle sin in the camp, because the Lord would ensure victory as long as they were doing what was right in his eyes. The problem is when they didn't have a good leader in place, they did what was right in their own eyes. So is the issue they need a king to lead them? Is that the issue? Does a king have to, or should I say, does a king have what it takes to lead this sinful, stiff-necked people? Remember, there's a few prophetic passages in Numbers and Deuteronomy that speak of a king leading Israel before they even got into the land and asked for one. Balaam spoke of a king that would be higher than Agag. And in Deuteronomy chapter 17, God said, when you enter into the land and seek to set a king over you, that king must be a king that I choose. So God already knew they would desire and need a king because they continually rejected him as king. So in 1 Samuel chapter 1, it says, now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephrathite. And he had two wives. The name of one was Hannah and the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Notice throughout these stories, there's always a man of God somewhere that has a wife that is barren. We need to take note of that. Abraham's wife, the wife that Jacob loved. And this man went up out of the city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. Remember, Shiloh is where the Ark of the Covenant was, and the tabernacle and the priest. And the two sons, Eli, the two sons of Eli, I should say, Hophni and Phinehas, the priest of the Lord, was there. So the ark was there, the tabernacle was there, and the priests were there in Shiloh. Remember that. Remember that. So where the ark was, Shiloh. And remember, the children of Israel are divided in the land. They are in different cities, different places in the land. When they come together and gather in one place. We saw them gather in Mizpah at the end of the book of Judges. And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah. Notice the one that the man loves is always the one that's barren. But the Lord has shut up her womb. Why? Notice it says the Lord shut it up. And her adversary, of course, Peninnah, provoked her sore. So because Peninnah had children and she didn't, she was an adversary to her because she provoked her, probably teased her, right? Showed off in front of her. And then I got a baby by Elkanah, and you don't, as Ishmael mocked Sarah. For to make her fret, because the Lord has shut up her womb. And as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why weepest thou? Why eatest thou not? Sister can't even eat. She's so upset. Why is there thy heart grieved? Am not I better to thee than 10 sons? No, you're not. A woman wants children, brother. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh. We're arrogant like that. But no, she wants children, homie. And after they had drunk, now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord, and she was in bitterness of soul and prayed unto the Lord and wept sore. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thy handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid. So she says, I'm your servant. She's not a servant of anybody else, but the Lord. She did not have a mistress. She did not serve another woman or another man. She was the Lord's handmaiden, she said. But wilt give unto thy handmaid a man child. Then will I give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. Notice the last judge in the book of Judges was Samson, and he was a Nazarite. He wasn't supposed to have a razor on his head. He wasn't supposed to cut his hair, nor drink wine or strong drink. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. He was watching her mouth. Like, what is she doing? Why did he do that? Now, Hannah, she spoke in her heart. Only her lips her moved. So she didn't speak out loud. This speaks to 1 Corinthians chapter 14 when it tells the person not to speak out of order, but to speak to the Lord in your mind. Don't speak words that can be heard, but pray to the Lord in silence. But her voice was not heard. Therefore, Eli thought she was drunk. And what is this girl doing? And Eli said unto her, how long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. Brother, she's not drunk. You don't know what's going on with your wife, do you? And Hannah answered and said, no, my Lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. That's what's wrong with me. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink. I haven't even been drinking, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Count not thy handmaid for a daughter of Belial, a daughter of worthlessness. For out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. Then Eli answered and said, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou ask of him. So he didn't even ask her what she was praying for, which he didn't need to. That was between her and God. And she said, let thy handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was more sad. So she was a servant of the Lord, and of course she served her husband. But she was not a servant in that, some man, she was some slave to some man. She was a servant of the Lord. She thought of herself as a handmaiden to the Lord and to her husband. Let's make sure we clarify that. There were handmaidens that served people. They were actually slaves. And they rose up in the morning early and worshiped before the Lord and returned and came to their house to Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife. So they might not be able to have kids, but Elkanah gonna enjoy his wife anyway. And we know as men sometimes that's a blessing. But and the Lord remembered her. He remembered her prayer. Wherefore it came to pass when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived that she bare a son. Praise the Lord. God answers prayer. And called his name Samuel, saying, because I have asked him of the Lord. And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow. And we learned about that back in Leviticus. But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned. And then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord and there abide forever. In other words, he's going to serve the Lord all of his days. And Elkanah, her husband, said unto her, do what seemeth thee good. Tarry until thou have weaned him, or breastfed him, and raised him to the age where he can be circumcised, and then grow some, and then be able to come out in public. Only the Lord established his word. So the woman abode and gave her son suck, or breastfed him until he was weaned, until he was able to begin to eat on his own, eat some food, gnaw on him a ham hock or something. And when she had weaned him, he was off the breast milk. She took him up with her with 3 bullocks and 1 ephah of flour and a bottle of wine, and brought him unto the house of the Lord in Shiloh. And the child was young. And they slew a bullock and brought the child to Eli the priest. And she said, "O my Lord, as thy soul liveth, my Lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here praying unto the Lord. For this child I prayed for, and the Lord hath given me my petition, or my, he's answered my prayer. I beseeched him, I begged him for a child. Therefore also I lent him to the Lord as long as he liveth." It says lent, but she gave him to the Lord. He's yours, Lord. Do with him what you desire. Use him how you desire. He's going to be a Nazarite, totally sold out to you. Before he was born, I spoke it over him. We need to speak some things over our children before they are born. Give them to the Lord. Forget about what you want them to do and what you want them to be. Give them to the Lord. And he worshiped the Lord there. Chapter 2, and Hannah prayed and said, "My heart rejoiceth in the Lord, my horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation." He had delivered her, saved her from her embarrassment of not having children. Her enemy, of course, was Penina. There is none holy as the Lord, for there is none beside thee. There's no other God like you. There's no one like you. No one can do the things that you do. I searched the world eternity long, and I have found there is none like you. I think those were the correct words. Neither is there any rock like our God. So this is her prayer down to verse 5, or her exhortation. Verse 6, she says, "The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up." Oh, girl said, God is in control. In chapter 10, verse 10, she says, "The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king. And exalt the horn of his anointed." Here we go again with a prophecy about a king. From a woman who has birthed a prophet and judge. And Elkanah went to Ramah to his house, and the child did minister unto the Lord before Eli the priest. So we even see that he is with Eli. So it seems that he was a priest or served amongst the priesthood. He was a judge and a prophet. That's why many scholars say he was a priest as well, because he ministered unto the Lord before Eli the priest. Now, the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They were worthless. They knew not the Lord. And the priest's custom with the people was that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest's servant came while the flesh was in seething, while it was cooking, with a flesh hook of 3 teeth in his hand. And he stuck it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. All that the flesh hook brought up, it belonged to the priest. So they did in Shiloh unto all the Israelites that came thither. So when the Israelites, the men came to present a sacrifice and offer it, the priest, as we learned in prior chapters, that there was always a portion that was given to the priest. Also, before they burnt the fat, the priest's servant came and said to the man that sacrificed, give flesh to roast for the priest, for he will not have sodden flesh of thee, but raw. And if any man said unto him, let them not fail to burn the fat presently, and then take as much as thy soul desireth, then he will answer him, nay, but thou shalt give it me now, and if not, I will take it by force. Wherefore the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord, for men abhor the offering of the Lord. So they were tripping about their little offering, and the priests were commanded to tell them, we'll take it by force, whatever you don't think you should give to us. But Samuel ministered before the Lord being a child, girded with a linen ephod. So you know he was a priest because he wore an ephod. Priests wore ephods. Moreover, his mother made him a little coat and brought it to him year by year when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. And Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife and said, the Lord give thee seed of this woman for the loan which is lent to the Lord. And they went unto their home. And the Lord visited Hannah so that she conceived and bare 3 sons and 2 daughters. So she had more children, but she had to have the prophet first. And the child Samuel grew before the Lord. Now Eli was very old and heard that all his sons did unto all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Here we go. Y'all remember how Samson was. That brother was loose when it came to women. Samson wasn't a good judge at all. He was more worried about women than he was his calling to deliver the children of Israel out of the hands of the Philistines. And he said unto them, why do ye such things? For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people. Like, what are y'all doing? Y'all the sons of the priests. Nay, my sons, for it is no good report that I hear. Ye make the Lord's people to transgress. If one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against the Lord, who shall entreat for him? Like when you sin against the Lord, can't nobody help you, man. What are y'all doing? Notwithstanding, they hearken not unto the voice of their father. Disobedient sons, because the Lord would slay them. This was coming for them. It was inevitable that his sons were going to be killed by God. Just like Nadab and Abihu. And the child Samuel grew on and was in favor both with the Lord and also with men. So this brother had the favor of the Lord in his life, and he had the favor of the people. And there came a man of God unto Eli and said unto him, Thus said the Lord, did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? So a man of God came to the priest. This was a messenger, and did choose him out of all the tribes of Israel, talking about the Levites, to be my priest, talking about the descendants of Aaron, to offer upon my altar to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me. The priest wore the ephod. He says in verse 29, wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and at mine offering, which I have commanded in my habitation, and honorest thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel, my people. Going back to what they talked about the offerings, right? So there were certain portions that the priests were supposed to be given according to the heave offering and the wave shoulder. But notice in this chapter, it says that they came up with something else with these flesh hooks and said, we'll take it by force. Give us what we want. Notice what he's saying here. You kick against my sacrifice. You come up with your own instructions on the sacrifice. Notice that we learned that the statutes and ordinances are things that are prescribed. You come up with your own prescription for my offering. You kick at my offering, and you want to take the chiefest of all the offerings of my people. Wherefore the Lord God of Israel said, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father shall walk before me forever. But now the Lord said, be it far from me. For them that honor me will I honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Is this saying that the house of Levi has lost their honor? Well, we'll see. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm and the arm of thy father's house. Whoa. That there shall not be an old man in thy house. Wow. And thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation, and all the wealth which God shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thy house forever. Verse 34, and this shall be a sign unto thee that shall come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas. In one day they shall die, both of them. And I will raise me up a faithful priest that shall do according to that which is in my heart and in my mind. And I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever. Is this speaking of Christ? And it shall come to pass that every one that is left in thine house shall come and crouch to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and shall say, put me, I pray thee, in one of the priest's office, that I may eat a piece of bread. So he's saying he's going to destroy the house of Aaron and raise up a priest that will do what is in the Lord's heart. Chapter 3, and the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision. What does it mean, there was no open vision? Let's go look at that for homework. And it came to pass at that time when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim that he could not see. And before the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep. The Lord called Samuel, and he answered, "Here am I." So the Lord called him a couple of times, and he didn't know that the Lord was calling him. He thought Eli was calling him, so he went to Eli. So verse 7 says, now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. He didn't know the Lord yet. He didn't know his voice. He didn't have a relationship with him yet. Neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him. God had allowed him to serve with the priest, but God hadn't come to him and revealed himself and began to reveal his word to him, didn't begin to use him yet as his prophet, but it's coming. And the Lord called Samuel for the third time, and he arose and went to Eli and said, "Here am I, for thou didst call me." You keep calling me, man. And Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, "Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt speak. Lord, thy servant heareth." The Lord is calling you, Samuel, and I know it, because I know the call of the Lord, because he called me one day. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel answered, "Speak, for thy servant heareth." "I hear you, Lord. I know it's you now." And the Lord said to Samuel, "Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle." Got something for y'all. "And that day I will perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I will also make an end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth." So he knows the iniquity of his sons, because his sons made themselves vile and laying with the women that came before my tabernacle. And he restrained them not. He didn't stop them. This is why we need strong leaders in the family and strong leaders to lead the people. Leaders with a standard, leaders that can restrain themselves and their sons. You got to be able to restrain yourself first, even before you can restrain your sons. How are you going to hold them back from doing something that you can't hold yourself back from doing? Whew. "And therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice, no offering forever." So they can't even atone for themselves. They are doomed. There is not even an atonement or sacrifice that can save them at this point. Verse 16 says, "Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son." He answered, "Here am I." And he said, "What is the thing that the Lord hath said unto thee?" "I pray thee, hide it not from me. God do so to thee, and more also, if thou hide anything from me. of the things that he said unto thee. You paranoid now, huh, Eli? And Samuel told him every whit. He told him everything and hid nothing from him. And he said, it is the Lord. Let him do what seemeth him good. And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and did not let none of his words fall to the ground. Remember what God said about a prophet back in Deuteronomy, I believe it was, that if a prophet speaks a word in his name and it does not come to pass, he shall die, because he's not my prophet. But Samuel, he's the first named prophet to be considered the prophet to Israel. And none of his words fell to the ground, meaning when God spoke something to him and he spoke it to the people, it came to pass. And all Israel from Dan even to Beersheba knew that Samuel was established to be a prophet of the Lord. He is the first prophet of Israel, the first named prophet. God sent a prophet to Israel, an unnamed prophet to Israel, to speak to them before this, but he is the first named prophet of Israel, who is their prophet outside of Moses. So what I'm actually trying to say is, since they've been in Canaan, this is the first prophet to the children of Israel. And the Lord appeared again in Shiloh. Notice he's in Shiloh where the ark is and the tabernacle is. For the Lord revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of the Lord. Chapter 4, and the word of Samuel came to all Israel. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out against the Philistines to battle and pitched beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines pitched in Aphek. And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel, and when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines, and they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. Now watch what Israel tries to do. They're going to try to use the ark as some type of trophy to carry around to ensure that they have victory against the Philistines. And when the people were come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, wherefore have the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant and the Lord out of Shiloh unto us, that when it cometh among us, it may save us out of the hands of our enemies. God ain't told you to go get the ark and take it out with you to war. That's where you're messing up already. Notice when the Lord was with them, either the Lord told them to go or they prayed first. Shall we go up, or who shall we send? They just gonna go get the ark. Like, we're gonna go get the ark and go out here and bring it to them. So the people sent to Shiloh that they may bring from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth between the cherubims. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. Verse 6, and when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, what meaneth the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of the Lord was come into the camp. So, oh man, they don't went and got the ark. And the Philistines were afraid, for they said, God is coming to the camp. They already knew what was up. And it was noised abroad that what God had did in Egypt, and to the kings when they came across the Jordan, and God's reputation is out there. They know about God and what he'll do. So they're like, oh man, they done brought God into the camp. And they said, woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us, who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods? So they God was so bad, he had them thinking it was multiple gods. Like, he's a pagan God. These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. I told you, they already knew what was happening. This God got a history, and they done brought his presence into the camp. Oh man, we're in trouble. But they said, be strong and quit yourselves like men, O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews. So they know if they lose the battle, they're gonna end up being captives and servants. As they have been to you, quit yourselves like men and fight. He told them to stand up and be men. Don't fear. And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten, and they fled every man into his tent. And there was a very great slaughter, and there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. And the ark of God was taken. The ark of God has been in the hands of the priests and in the camp of Israel all these years, from the time they made it in the days of Moses to the time they come across the Jordan into the land. Moses had it, Joshua had it, the judges had it. Now it's been taken from Shiloh, the headquarters. And the priests, Hophni and Phinehas, were killed. So God did exactly what he said he was going to do. And the word of Samuel did not fall to the ground, did it? But then a man came running, a man of Benjamin out of the army, and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes rent. When a person was upset, angry, they would tear their clothes, throw dirt on their head. His clothes was rent and with earth on his head. And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. Notice Eli was worried about the ark. He wasn't worried about his sons. And when Eli heard the noise of the crying, he said, what meaneth the noise of this tumult? And the man came in hastily in a hurry and told Eli. Now Eli was 99 years old, man, almost 100 years old, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. He was blind. And the man said unto Eli, I am he that came out of the army and fled today out of the army. And he said, what is there done, my son? And the messenger answered him and said, Israel has fled before the Philistines, and there have been also a great slaughter among the people, and thy two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of the covenant is taken. And it came to pass when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off the seat backwards by the side of the gate and broke his neck and died. Now, when he heard that his sons were killed, I guess he probably said, well, that's what Samuel said was going to happen, that wasn't going to be an old man in my house. So, because I didn't restrain them, that's the Lord's judgment. But the ark is gone. The Philistines got the ark. Oh, he fell out of his chair and broke his neck and died. For he was an old man and heavy, so he was fat. And he judged Israel 40 years. So Eli the priest, he actually was a judge as well. He governed Israel as the priest after Samuel died. So a leader that did not restrain his own children. So now you can see when you read the Old Testament, you see why bishops and elders are given the instructions that they are given, not to be drunkards. You have to rule your house well. You see it? And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas's wife, was with child, near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. Now she getting ready to have a baby after hearing all of this tragedy. And about the time of her death, the women stood by her and said unto her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. You delivered the son. You delivered your child. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, the glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, the glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. And as I read it, we say that she died, but she was still talking and named the child. So it is said that she died birthing the child, but it doesn't actually say in the end of this chapter that she had actually went ahead and died. But she actually said the glory is departed from Israel and the ark of God is taken. Do you all see how precious the ark of God was to them? Chapter 5. Chapter 5. And the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it unto Ebenezer, unto Ashdod. When the Philistines took the ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. They didn't know no better. They didn't know how foolish of a move that was to put the ark of God next to their God. And when they of Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place. So God done knocked their God down. Like, how dare you put me next to this false God? And when they arose in the morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both his palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Therefore, neither the priest of Dagon, so they have priests too. Excuse me 1 second. So they have gods and they have priests too. Therefore, to Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod unto this day. So they're like, yeah, we're gonna stay away from there because obviously we done messed up. But the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and smote them with hemorrhoids. Even Ashdod and the coast thereof. So he's plagued them for bringing the ark in a place next to their gods. And when the men of Ashdod saw it was so, they said, the ark of God, the ark of God of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us and upon Dagon our God. This ark is not going to stay here with us because these bumps, yeah, that's enough for us. We see right away that he's not playing. They sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines unto them and said, what shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? We got to do something with it. Look at what's happened to us since we had it here. It's knocked down our God, broke the head off of it in the palms, gave us hemorrhoids, boils, and they said, "Let the ark of God let the ark of the God of Israel be carried about unto Gath." So they're not even thinking take it back to them like right now. They're gonna take it to Gath, and they carried the ark of the God of Israel about thither. And it was so that after they carried it about, the hand of the Lord was against the city with a very great destruction, and he smote the men of the city, both small and great, and they had emerods in their secret parts. All right. Now I said hemorrhoids being funny, but um, there were emerods. They were supposed to be some type of boils. Um, that came upon your body parts, um, wherever God caused them to rise up. But they were supposed to be boil type bumps, to my knowledge. Therefore, they sent the ark of God to Ekron. Still ain't sent it back to Shiloh. They just gonna move it around and see where it can stay anywhere but sending it back to the children of Israel. Once we send it back to them, now they got the presence and power of God back amongst them. We don't want to do that. And it came to pass, as the ark of God came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, they have brought about the ark of the God of Israel to us to slay us and our people. Like, no, 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 no. So they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, send away the ark of the God of Israel and let it go again to his own place. Okay, we get it. We get it. It's best for us to send it back to y'all and just fight y'all while y'all got it with you. Because right now, this ain't working for us. So I'm texting my job at the same time. They want me to switch days. I'm trying to get a answer back uh, from them and teach at the same time. Sorry about that. That it slay us not and our people, for there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city. The hand of God was very heavy there. And the men that died not were smitten with emerods, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. Ah, this is the last verse. So we end the book of Judges with there was no king in those days, and everyone did what was right in their own eyes. So this sister Hannah births God's first prophet to the nation. He is a priest. He is going to be a judge. You have Eli, who is the priest of the people at that time, and his two sons, they were worthless brothers. Eli didn't restrain them. So we still see the condition of mankind. We still see it even in the children of Israel, how their hearts are. Even the priests who would kick at the Lord's sacrifice and not follow it wholly. We see the children of Israel carrying the ark around like it's some type of genie or something. Genie in a bottle. We're going to carry the ark with us and use it as a defense in war. In those days, there was no king in Israel. And then we're going to find out Samuel is a man of God, but then he grows old and they look at his sons and say, you're old and your sons, they're not worthy either. Give us a king. Israel needs a king. Chapter 6 through 10 tomorrow morning on a walk through the Bible.